A new report by the KnowBe4 African reveals that 24% of Africans were affected by cybercrime while working from home. The study saw 881 respondents surveyed across South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, Morocco, Mauritius and Botswana. This is an effort to discover how the continent views cybersecurity and its risks in a world shaped by a global pandemic. To tell us more about the report and its findings, we are joined via Zoom by Anna Collard. She is the Content Strategy and Evangelist at KnowBe4 Africa. Anna, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Anna, speak to us first of all about this report and why it was so important for you to compile it.
So we actually did the first report or research survey a year ago, and then we ran another one this year. And the reason why we originally started with that is that there isn't actually enough stats or survey results available on the continent. You get a lot of really interesting research from the US and Europe, but we didn't have enough applicable on our continent. So we just felt, let's do it ourselves. And we ran a survey, as you mentioned, across 8 African countries. And what was quite interesting is to see the slight difference between last year, so 2019 study, and this year. So there's definitely been a level of awareness that has been risen. So people obviously had to be, had to move to work from home. They were forced into digitization somewhat, and that, in a way, fortunately raised their level of awareness around cybercrime. But it's still not enough to say, well, they know enough. So we still have a massive gap there. And in fact, we actually talk about something that's called the unconscious incompetence. So people think that they know, but they actually don't even know they don't know.
And what were some of the key findings you discovered while you're working on compiling this report, Anna?
So I think what was interesting is, for starters, like Africans we are mobile. We are on our mobile devices all the time. We do about 70% of the survey, or the respondents said that they do financial transactions as well as mobile banking on their devices. They use WhatsApp. So we asked people, what are they using for work, And obviously email is still sort of prevalent, with I think 85 or 86% said they use email for work, but 85% also said that they use WhatsApp for work. In their private lives, that WhatsApp is sort of 99% of the time. Like I think in average it's 96 across the continent. In Kenya, if you go there, it's 99% of the people use WhatsApp. So it's really quite interesting again that if you compare ourselves to America, for example, we are much more mobile, and we used WhatsApp as like the main communication channel. And that in itself also brings risks, because people are more likely to trust links that they've been forwarded by their friends on WhatsApp, or that they get on their family groups. And that's exactly how scammers operate, is that they use emotional tactics to get people to forward just these scams, and then people are more likely to click on it on their mobile devices. The other thing that was really interesting, as I mentioned, is that whole component of unconscious incompetence. So 50% last year and 40% this year said that they feel confident that they would recognize a security incident or like a cyber threat. Mm-hmm. But in the same report, we did some qualifying questions, and we asked the people, do you know what ransomware is? Or do you know what something is called multi-factor authentication? Mm-hmm. And in 2019, over 65% of the people did not know what that was. That improved slightly this year, but still over 50% of the people did not. They couldn't identify what these, very common in this sort of cyber security realm, what these common threats and controls are. So this is just to show, again, it's really dangerous if people think that they know enough and they feel they're safe, yet they are not. They literally are not aware of the threats out there and how to protect themselves.
And the report also found that workers' attitudes and behaviors had actually shifted as a result of the pandemic. Tell us more about that.
Yes. So we asked people, how has the pandemic affected your work life? And over half of the respondents, and that correlates with quite a few other reports as well, said that they will continue to having to work from home, And even post-COVID, they will probably stay working from home. And that's a massive shift if we consider, I know even locally, some of the larger organizations, they consider giving up their big office blocks because people are working from home. They may consider maybe a shared office environment or like sort of a hot desking, but it's really shown that it's possible to work from home. Albeit, I mean, if I have got children at home and it's not that much fun having to juggle the family and
I can imagine,
and work,
yeah.
but it does work, and I think that's the one positive, I guess, out of this whole thing. And the unfortunate situation is that we were forced to digitize and make it happen, and companies were surprised to see how well it actually works. And you can trust people to get their work done, even if they're at home, even if they're distracted. But with that, from a cybersecurity point of view, again, and this is maybe sort of the key message, is something that we need to all be aware of, is that because of this new situation and because of that collective level of anxiety that's around, we are more susceptible to what they call social engineers or people hackers. Because what these scammers do is they take advantage of the fact that when we are slightly stressed, we use something called the heuristic thinking mode. So that is our more older reptilian brain, and that's what happens then if we are in this mode. We don't actually think critically. We don't use our more like the frontal lobes, which are critical thinking and rational thought. We actually end up doing things we wouldn't usually do, like click on links, like forward that fake news, and that's just something I think to be aware of, that we can't trust our emotions. And unfortunately, at the moment, all of us are at a sort of higher emotional state, and that makes us more vulnerable.
Now, Anna, just take us through how the 881 respondents that were surveyed for this study were found. I mean, why did you choose to focus on these countries in particular?
So we just thought, let's focus on respondents or people that are currently employed. So we didn't include students and we didn't include unemployed people. So we just wanted to get professionals that are currently working. The 8 countries that we've identified, Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa, those are your sort of top 3 economies for starters. And then we also found that a lot of like Mauritius, even though it's a small economy comparably, but they are actually quite advanced in terms of their cybersecurity regulation, and the government is doing a lot to make it a smart island. So you would think that the level of awareness there may be higher than in other countries. And we just, we started off with those 8 countries. We will probably expand this next year to even more countries, but yeah, we just thought let's start with the top economies or the top 5, and then use interesting regions like Mauritius to bring into the mix.
Yeah, and you go on to say that this year the respondents were even more concerned about cybercrime compared to 2019. Why was this?
That's right. So 2019, I think we had about 36% said they were concerned, and that number rose by 10%. So 48% of the respondents this year said they are concerned about cybercrime. And I think that it's quite a massive spike if you consider that is linked to this new wave of having to be digitized. And obviously the media thankfully did a lot of good to raise awareness in the beginning of the year when all these COVID scams were making the rounds. So I'm hoping that was one of the reasons why people are a bit more aware, and that explains that jump in awareness.
Now, for those that would like to access the report and go through it in their personal capacity, where can they access it?
Yes, they can go to our website. This is KnowBe4.com. So KNO, like knowing before you click, KnowBe4.com, and then you will access this research report as well as many other research reports that we've, not just in Africa, but globally. We've done, for example, a security culture report that is also really interesting if you're interested in that area. And by the way, that culture report showed that in terms of security maturity, that the education sector and the government sector globally, not just in Africa, have scored pretty low, and that more needs to be done if we consider that the next generation is coming through the schooling and the universities, and that they're not being prepared adequately, that's a thing of high concern in my view, because nowadays being cyber aware and knowing or understanding how to conduct yourself online is no longer a tech skill. It should be a life skill. We're all now living online. I mean, I'm now in my home, right? I've got this office picture in the back, but I'm actually in my home, and so is my family. They're all online. So the reality is we have to teach ourselves as well as our children how to be safe online.
All right. Anna Collard, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your tips and for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. That was Anna Collard from the KnowBe4 Africa for joining us, and we thank her for joining us this morning to speak to us about their 2020 report that reveals that about 24% of Africans were affected by cybercrime while working from home.